Hello and welcome to the Fanfiction Book Club podcast, a weekly podcast that explores the good, the bad, and the cringy of fanfiction, hosted by me, Ollie, and my lovely co-hosts, SG. Hey! Poppy.
Hi!
And Tstan.
Hello!
Every month, we scour the internet to bring you 4 different fanfic reads, and our theme this month is Percy, Jackson, and the Olympians. Check out our website at fanfictionbookclub.com or follow us on Twitter and Instagram at fanfictionados for the full lineup of stories of the month and to connect with us on the web. Alrighty, so before I get into my story, I just wanted to briefly go over how I came to find the fic of the week that we are discussing.
Tell us.
Yes.
So initially, I had found a Grover fic. And if you guys don't remember from last week, Grover's my favorite character. He's comedic. I think he's just a great character. And I really wanted to find one him as the main character. And I found one, and it was a good, 20K word story, and it was really good. But then, I review I was looking on fanfiction.net app, and I hit backspace too much, and then I lost it.
How dare you?
I know, and I'm upset, but I really like the fanfiction app. It's a really good app in case you hit backspace and then you lose everything because there's no history. But eventually I found this one, and it captivated me because it is a historical based fanfic, and I don't think I've ever really read a fanfiction that is historical and also a tragedy. So disclaimer, this is a romantic tragedy.
Big sad.
And if people aren't into that, I understand. I'm typically not a person to read something that's sad. I always like to read something that ends happily.
Lies.
And not lies.
Your pick last month was sad. Well, it wasn't super sad. But what about the Phantom and Christine, and she's in a loveless marriage?
No, it was more bittersweet. This was sad.
It's a legit tragedy.
Yeah.
It tugs on your heartstrings.
Mm-hmm.
So the fic this week is called Here We Mark the Price of Freedom, by JillianEmily. And of course, this is found on fanfiction.net. And this was written November 24th of 2020, so a recent fic, and word count is just under 11K. And the tags are obviously romance tragedy, Annabeth, Percy, and includes characters Piper and Leo, and yeah. So author's summary, in which Percy and Annabeth meet in the midst of World War II, and they learn that freedom comes at a price. Percybeth, one shot AU. Okay, so the entire story is set in Percy Jackson's point of view, and it's supposed to be taking place during World War II, kind of right after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. So the entire fic is historical based, and there's no fantasy or anything involving gods, demigods, or magic or anything like that. Percy is a drafted U.S. soldier, meaning he didn't have dreams fighting in war. That was never his passion to do. He never wanted to be a hero or anything like that. And very early into the story, you realize he's a sensitive soul, and war and death really affect his mental well-being. And he struggles quite a bit with being shouldered with so much responsibility and keeping his spirits up. And so the whole fic is timelined, and it's like a single chapter, but it breaks up into portions of like frames of time. So it begins in December of 1941 in a like U.S. troop encampment, and every soldier is new to the camp. They haven't gone into battle yet. And in this specific camp, Percy is pretty well known, or he's pretty popular in the troops for whatever reason. And Annabeth is also another soldier in the camp. And apparently in this like world, in this universe, it's okay for women to fight in war. Like, I guess it's just there's no like
I thought that was I thought that was an interesting touch to it, because I was reading it and I'm like, is she a nurse or something, or is she actually on the front lines? I'm not sure exactly what she does. And then it seemed like they were just fighting alongside each other.
I assumed that she was a nurse or a doctor or something. Because it never
because I don't know in what world with like 1940s America they let men and women share barracks.
Oh no, yeah. I mean, this is very unrealistic. Like but also I don't know what the setup of war is.
Of AU war.
I'm pretty sure she was a nurse, but it was not said. It was not specifically said.
It definitely was something about her fighting.
Yeah, there was, because I was thinking she was a nurse until that point.
Yeah, because it mentioned that she wanted to save lives. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, she's a nurse. Like, she must be there to, like, patch people up. But then there was a scene where they're, like, in the middle of a battle, and, like, Annabeth was right there with everybody else.
Well,
I thought she just wanted to fight for her country was the big...
I mean, that was her introduction.
I thought she was saving soldiers that were wounded on the battlefield. That's what I thought she was doing. Like,
and that's what I call a gender bias.
Honestly,
well, that's historic.
I know. No. That's totally history, because I totally thought like she's a nurse. She's gotta be. And then I'm like, well, maybe it's one of those. You know how like Star Trek, everybody, no matter their gender, they just do the jobs. It was like the Star Trek mentality, but in the past, because it is an AU, so they can take liberties as they please.
But it's never specifically said what she's doing there. So
yeah.
Soldier could be a nurse. Who knows what she's doing?
Yeah, but I know that they specifically said that she volunteered for the position.
So in this very beginning bit, Annabeth, Annabeth sees Percy eating alone during one of their meals, and he keeps himself separate from everybody else and just kind of watches them not interact, just have their meals, and he sits by himself. And Annabeth is curious about him. He's pretty well known in the camp, so she decides to take it upon herself and, introduce herself and see who he is, what's up. And she's pretty shocked to find that this most popular soldier in the camp has a pretty cold attitude, and he's pretty testy, and he keeps to himself, and he doesn't really want to talk or make any friends. But Annabeth cozies herself up to him. She teases him a little bit, and Percy slowly warms up to her. And then, so they talk for a little bit, and a really important piece, I feel like, comes up in this very beginning, that Annabeth, of course, she wasn't a drafted soldier. She volunteered, but she really wants to make a difference, and she's not afraid of death, and really wants her life to mean something, and she wants to save lives and fight in this war. And she says that it's like her life's purpose. And Percy really admires Annabeth and sees her like this light and strength that he can rely on, which shows more as the story goes on. But in the very beginning, their friendship is more of like a support system for like what each person lacks, the other has, which is a really great dynamic for friendship and budding romantic roles. And then time goes on. It's August 1942. A few months have passed since their first introduction, and the soldiers of the camp were in their first real battle. And Percy is pretty horrified by by the battle. 1,000 people had died, and every time Percy like closes his eyes, he sees like bloodshed, and he struggles with sleep. And he can only really calm down with like Annabeth by his side. And it's this scene that Annabeth comments on how long her hair is, and this bit sounds pretty insignificant of like what's going on with the battle and all that, but I feel like this deviation with the plot really helps develop Percabeth, and so Percy really likes her long blonde hair, and there's a scene where they flirt a little bit, and Annabeth teases Percy about how good looking she is, and Percy can't really deny that. And this little bit of humor is definitely a much needed like comic relief of all that's going on, as it's pretty dark and depressing with World War II. But I do kind of appreciate that the author doesn't go into much details of war, because I feel like if they did add like battle scenes and showing the death, I feel like it would be too much for the story to have. And then time goes on. It's February 1943, so it's been about a year. And they're on this island. It's like a sandy island, and I don't think the author really says specifics on where they are. But yeah, they're on this like island, and Annabeth and Percy are pretty close friends at this point and spend most of their free time together. And again, there's this discussion about Annabeth's hair, and she wants to cut it. And Percy begrudgingly says like he'll do it for her, even though he really likes her long, beautiful hair. And he gives her like a hack job. Like it's not a good cut, but he cuts it short for her. And when she turns around, when he's done, he's kind of dumbfounded because he thinks like she's even more beautiful. And finally, like after 2 years of knowing each other, the couple finally kiss, and it's romantic, and they admit their love for each other.
Oh.
And it's real cute. And then time goes on again. It's still 1943, and it's the Battle of the Bulge, and it's a real harsh winter, and they're in the midst of the battle, and it's really taken a toll on all of the soldiers, and many are in pretty rough shape. And Annabeth has this like reoccurring statement that she makes a few times in the story that she is not human. And Percy will kind of joke around and be like, oh, hey, you're like a human like the rest of us. And Annabeth will be like, how dare you? Like, being human would mean being weak, which I think is kind of the author referencing perhaps the books of like Annabeth being the daughter of Athena, the goddess of wisdom and war strategy. So there could be like this ingrained duty in Annabeth, which would, would have her be able to survive in war in horrific conditions. And like if you kind of have to be above human, or you would succumb to the like infallibility of human weakness. So I feel like it's kind of a loaded statement when she says, I'm not human. Oh, and also in this chapter, the two make love for, I don't know if it's the first time, but I feel like it's good to know that they do make love, to say it nicely, because they aren't like these like G-rated characters that only snuggle and hold hands. They're very like real gritty conditions, and they have love. And it's cute. It's romantic. And then it's January of 1945. I think a year or so has passed, 2 years, and Percy now has a ring box and is planning on proposing to Annabeth. And it's kind of adorable, Percy proposing to Annabeth. It's just, I don't know, I feel like it's a romantic spot in this story of how he proposes to her. And it's like the ring from his mom, I believe, which I don't know how he got unless he was carrying it the entire time. I don't know how that works unless they're able to get.
They had courier mail and stuff. It just took like a really long time to get to people. So he could have had it mailed to him at some point.
Yeah. I mean, 2 years have passed and they're probably not always in battle. So things are probably happening. Which I kind of wish the author would go into more just like everyday moments rather than like, and then there was a battle and Percy was really depressed and sad and Annabeth was there to support him. I feel like every year or every portion of this chapter just begins like there was a battle, Percy's really sad, Annabeth was there to help him out. And then it goes on to January 1945. It's, I think, 2 weeks after Percy proposes to Annabeth, and they're now in the Battle of the Ardennes. And Percy hasn't seen Annabeth in hours, and it's literally they're in battle in this scene. And he's running around, and he's desperately searching for Annabeth, his now fiancée. And one of his friends, Piper, is down on the ground, like she's injured. And when he goes to her, she mentions that Annabeth had been searching for him and that a German aircraft was coming their way. So she had to run back into the battle to find Percy and to make sure he's okay. And so with that, he abandons Piper, who's like injured, like she's laying on the ground, really like seriously injured. And so he just abandons her to go find Annabeth.
What a simp.
I know. I'm just like, okay, abandon your friends. We see where your loyalties lies. And they eventually find each other. And Annabeth tells him that he needs to go and that he can't stay where they are. And Percy's pretty shocked and is like, no, let's leave together so we both don't die. But Annabeth tells him like the whole reason why she's there was to fight. And this was who she was. She was stubborn. She was reckless. And Percy knew that was something he had to respect about her. So he parts only because she promised to find him when she did what she needed to do. So he's walking away for her. She's going towards the German aircraft, or I'm not really sure what she was trying to do. But as soon as he leaves, there's an explosion where Annabeth once was. And then time goes on, and it's now 59 years later, and it's 2004, and Percy is like an old man. He's in a wheelchair, and he is at a memorial site looking at all the stars, displaying all the lives that were lost during World War II. And if it wasn't clear, Annabeth did die that day when he left her on the battlefield. But she died what she loved doing, which was serving her country. Percy misses her every day, but he still respects her decision and her prideful nature. And that's pretty much it. I mean, there's like no real ribbon at the end. I'm kind of surprised that the author didn't actually go into the depths of like, oh, maybe Percy's now married and has grandkids, or like what his life looks like now as an old man. Mm-hmm. But it sounds like he probably never got over Annabeth and probably never married, and we don't really know where he is today.
Yeah, so they pulled the opposite Titanic, where Percy never got married, never had children.
Yeah.
That he knows of. That we know of.
That we know of.
Gosh.
Yeah, we never say that he didn't have, like, I don't know, have a mistress or something. I don't, like...
Yeah, we don't know enough of his life. I liked this concept, but I wish it was developed more. Like, this is kind of a watered down version of the, like, alt-future Captain America fanfics that I've read, like, between him and Peggy. Mm-hmm. Kind of stuff.
Just gonna mention, this feels a lot like the ending to Major spoilers for Endgame, y'all. Hold on.
Are you gonna spoil Endgame this soon, Tstan?
So many spoilers.
It came out a year ago.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
And
a pandemic. Not everyone has
It was the top
Disney
grossing
Plus.
movie until they re-released Avatar last week.
Which one? Not the Last Airbender, I hope.
No, not that one. The blue one. The blue people.
The blue people. Oh, that I don't know why they call that Avatar, but okay.
It's
Don't listen for the next 60 seconds if you don't want to know anything about Endgame.
Give it a good 5 minutes, because I know we're gonna go off on Endgame tangents.
At the end of Endgame, Captain America goes back in time. He uses the time powers that they used during the movie to go back in time and spend the rest of his life with Peggy. So he didn't crash the plane in Captain America. He lives through the rest of the war. They get married and have lots of kids, and he comes back as an old man. That's it.
You know, I don't think I actually saw that movie.
You don't need to see it, Ollie. It is it's 3 hours long.
It's a very long movie, but it's also a very good movie. I'm currently rewatching all of the MCU movies in order, chronological order.
Oh my goodness.
I just watched the Avengers yesterday. But yeah, and
is this
also
a Disney Plus.
It is.
Yeah, it's a Disney Plus thing.
Yeah. Okay.
But which you won't spend $7 to watch.
No.
Oh my god.
So salty about that, Poppy.
Well, it's you could spend $7 and you get tons of movies. I don't know whatever. It doesn't matter.
Ollie, you failed your
okay.
friends.
Yeah, whatever.
That's all I wanted to add, is that it was very reminiscent of the ending of Endgame.
Yeah.
Which,
except for Percy didn't get to spend his whole life with Annabelle.
No.
it was the same tone, I was thinking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It had a similar tone. And there's there's war fanfics that I've read where Captain America, he never became Captain America. He was just Steve Rogers in the war, but kind of sick, he is. But
see, that's cool. That's a cool.
That kind
premise.
of had this tone, and some of them he had working under Peggy is more of a clerical position because of his physical conditions. So it was interesting in some of those fanfics to see a guy on the administrative side versus out on the front lines. But he's Steve Rogers and he's fearless, so he's going to end up on the front lines anyway at some point. But I thought those were interesting stories. But I liked that those ones that I read, but I read them a while ago when Marvel and Captain America were crazy, the first boom of them.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to find them now. But they were more developed, and they shared more of the day-to-day of what was going on. And I'm always interested in historical inspired fics to see what their day-to-day was compared to our modern day-to-day. How do they handle stuff? What technology do they use? What are their processes? Just to really establish that what's the point of writing something in a historical context if you don't emphasize the things, the technology, the social structures that were of that time, because then it could just be modern day with barely any effort put in. If you just say it happened in 1942, I feel that's lazy writing. Make me feel like I'm in 1942.
Yeah, and I think the focus on this wasn't the war, but mainly
was the
relationship. Yeah, it was really focused. Every little timeline sequence was just about the two and their relationship. And I would, obviously, if they made this a longer fic, they could triple the size and actually include, develop more of the plot and the setting. But alas, they did not. And it was only, it was 10,000, 11,000 words.
Oh yeah, I think the author was smart in that they were able to avoid having to develop the plot as much because it was a short one shot.
Right.
And they were just fleshing out the romance. So it totally makes sense in this context. And I think the author did a good job of just giving you enough information to get a sense of the setting, because that wasn't necessarily the main focus. But I like this concept, and I would have liked it in a longer format where you could really explore that. the relationship between those two characters. Because you get that they're getting close, but you don't really see those moments. You just see the catalyst of those a bunch of different moments happening, but not those individual moments that build up to
like they just needed a few like filler scenes to really establish that.
Something to establish their chemistry a bit more. Because like just once or twice a year, and then we're just taking the author's word for everything in between. Because they didn't say what everything in between was. Like were they always stationed together? Were there points where they were stationed apart? Are they in the same squad, unit, whatever they do in the military?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not hip with that world. My only exposure is like Call of Duty. But if we get a little bit more of that, that would be cool. But I mean I liked it for what it was.
Yeah, I am not a big fan of like timelined like stories of like 2 weeks later, a year later. I feel like it did work though in this format because it was historical. It wasn't like it was happening now. They're like they made sure like this is all in the past. Like you knew that it was going to eventually bud into the present. So I thought that really worked well.
Yeah, I think some of the things that could be considered lazy writing, like not developing the setting as much and literally listing the timeline, actually worked for this story in a way that they wouldn't for some other stories that we've seen those things in. Like a story that you recommended a couple months ago.
Which one?
Naruto. Jedi Master.
That was
That was like an example of
how
someone not developing those things and it not working, but in this one, in the setting of a one shot for the length that it was with the focus that it had.
Yeah.
The lack of setting development and the presence of a timeline made sense.
Yeah. I feel like you can't have a story that's supposed to be in the present go into like 2 weeks later, a day later. Like that's not how it should be working.
That's just ridiculous.
That's just stupid. Like you could just easily transition that with like
with your language.
A transitional word. I don't know.
Did we talk about characters?
No, but I do have to say, so as soon as like it was like it's a World War II fic, I was like, who's dying? And then, like, as the story went on, like, it kept saying that Annabeth was getting, like, progressively, like, skinnier and, like, malnourished and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought that she was gonna, like, die of starvation.
Mm-hmm.
But then she died in a bomb. So, like, I don't know what... I guess the point was just showing the hardships of war, but, like, I don't really know what like purpose that served.
It did feel like they were gonna go off on a tangent, or not a tangent, but like they were gonna make that part of the story, but it just kind of got swooshed right over.
Yeah.
No, explosions are cooler.
But I feel like they described Annabeth looking malnourished, but I think that's only because it was in Percy's point of view. But all the soldiers, I think, were in the same state as she was.
Right.
Like, but cold, hungry, pale.
I just didn't know what... I just thought that she was going to die of starvation or...
Yeah.
No, I totally was thinking the same thing, Poppy. Like, oh my gosh, they're in these harsh conditions. She's going to, like, go to sleep and not wake up one day or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's going to freak Percy out. They're going to pull, like, a Jane Eyre on him. But, yeah.
Yeah.
It did. At the end, he was like, they think she might be alive or something like that. I'm like, it's been like 60 years, bruh.
If she was alive, she would have.
If she hasn't found you now, she's not trying.
She seemed like a very determined individual. So if she was kicking.
She was officially declared missing. That's what they said.
Got it.
Just because they couldn't find her body because it got blown up.
Yeah.
Or maybe she's living it up in the south of France. We don't know.
Yeah, maybe she lost all her memories during the blast.
Yeah.
Someone write a spin-off of this fic.
Right.
No, somebody wrote a spin-off of this fic. Because I think this is very interesting. And I think it would be even more interesting if there was, like, World War II experimental soldiers. If Percy has, like, water powers or whatever.
Annabeth is the witch.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like a Marvel
Like there's a
type
chemical
thing
plant that blew up and then all these soldiers were affected.
Yeah, and then like this one group of soldiers, they like hit a secret Nazi base that was on the verge of something, but it was just radioactive space, whatever, asteroid bits, and it like caused crazy stuff to happen to the soldiers. But just like, I would have liked this AU to weave some of their like demigod powers in, because the AU I picked, there was no reference to their demigod powers.
No.
And there also isn't in this one.
No, there is not.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
It is interesting.
I noticed that. I noticed that with a lot of the fics I was looking at, is that they seem to all be like AU where nobody has any powers. I'm like,
yeah.
Really? You got sweet god powers and you're not going to use them in like your coffee shop AU?
Yeah, why not have god powers in a coffee shop AU?
Characters, what's up with those guys?
I liked the characters. And I liked that Percy wasn't sure of himself and questioned himself and had an insecurity to him. And that Annabeth had the confidence that she had.
I think they stuck well to the like canon characters. Like how Annabeth was like very strong and she was kind of teasing Percy a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And Percy was just kind of doubting his role in the universe or in the war. And that's very like the books, how Percy was just kind of awkward and
yeah, I mean, he grew into a confidence as the book went on, but definitely at the beginning, he was very unsure of himself and confused and not very confident in his abilities. And it's interesting in this story that the fact that he was drafted and he didn't sign up, the fact that he was forcefully drafted almost mirrors the fact that he didn't really have a choice being Poseidon's son. He was forced into a situation. So I don't know if it was intentional or not, but I did appreciate that was kind of mirrored over in this story, that he's just kind of thrust into the situation. He's like, how do I survive this? Like he did in the early books. Not survival wasn't like as intense as World War II would be, but I think that's kind of a cool feature of his character that transitioned over.
And same thing with like Annabeth, like she wanted to be a hero. Like she went to Camp Half-Blood, or I don't remember what the camp was called.
I think it was Camp Half-Blood.
No, you're right.
Okay.
You're right. Yeah.
I didn't know it was like called Jupiter, or maybe I'm just thinking of your fic.
I don't know what was going on with my fic, so don't take anything from that fic is like canon compliant in any way.
I'm like, I don't remember, but Annabeth wanted to be a hero and she wanted to be at Camp Half-Blood, and she like inserted herself to be with Percy so that she could fight alongside him. So there's a lot of similarities between both the characters in the books.
I feel like there just wasn't enough, I think, to kind of like characterize them.
I think you got a sense of their character, and maybe Ollie and I do because we read the books and we're just able to pick out little things that remind us.
That's entirely fair. Yeah, I don't know what the books were like, so.
Yeah,
Poppy, did you? Oh, I was just about to ask you. Do you feel the same as Tstan?
I kind of feel the same. I'm like, I don't know, like Percy was in love with Annabeth, and Annabeth was a strong, independent woman who also loved Percy, and it's like, I don't know anything else about their character other than that, like, from this fan fiction. Like, it just, like, that's it.
I would agree that maybe they didn't really develop their characters, but I feel like they the author developed more of their personalities. Like, I feel like in the way they talk to each other, like you kind of understood who they
Their
were.
dynamic.
But, like, beyond, their dynamic together. But beyond that, it's like, I don't know, they could be anyone.
Yeah, because I guess that they only develop their characters in the way that they interact with each other.
Yeah,
not
like
them
beyond
as
that.
independent people. It was really just pushing the relationship instead of developing those characters individually in this story. Did you guys like the romance?
Yeah. It was cute, but I just knew that something bad was going to happen, so...
You were just dreading it, so
we were waiting for the drop of it.
I was bracing myself the whole time.
It's like, it's coming soon.
It's happening. She's gonna starve.
Yeah.
Or get blown up.
Someone's gonna die. Like,
I thought their proposal scene was super sappy and romantic, and like I reread that scene like 3 times because it was really cute and adorable. Of like Percy building up to be like, "Will you marry me?" And he's like, "I have a surprise for you." And she's like, "Give me a hint." And he's like, "I love you." She's like, "That's a terrible hint." He's like, "You're a terrible guesser." But I'm like, "Oh, that's cute. You guys are really cute."
Yeah, that was cute banter. That was cute banter.
Yeah. Most of the stories I read are definitely romance. Like that's all I really read. I never really read it for like the adventure. Well, okay, I read for the adventure, but like if there's no romance at all, like I'm like, why am I reading this?
That's I just I do the same thing. I'm like, I don't want to read, like, I'm here for the relationship. Like, everything else comes like second. I'm like, if this fan fiction has the relationship that I'm looking for, then I will give it a shot. Like, it can be angst, it can be drama, it can be action, it can be fluff, it can be comedy. Not usually comedy. Like, I normally go for like things that are a little bit more serious, or like, but like I look for the relationship first. Like, that's what I filter, is by the relationship that I want to read.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Because I just filter fandom coffee shop AU. And I just see who pops up.
I my first thing when I search for a fic is the characters who I want to be A and B. And then I go from there.
Yeah.
Wow, what a limiting fanfiction.net perspective.
I know, but I can choose who I want to read about.
Exactly.
But AO3.
You get to choose who characters, and I choose characters, I choose English, and I choose completed works. And
Yep.
There you go.
Let's see what's up.
Yeah.
Ollie?
SG, did you find any mistakes or misspellings?
I found 2 misspellings, but their general grammar seemed to be good.
Good.
Yeah.
I actually did the audio version of this, and I did read some of it, but I definitely listened to most of it, and this is actually one of a good fan fiction to actually listen to, because I felt like it was pretty seamless in the audio version of like an automated voice talking.
So, most important question. What accent did your reader have, and how fast were they reading it?
I mean, it sounded like the female Google person, she was American, and it wasn't fast. I don't think there's a setting on the fanfiction.net app to
like the app reads it to you?
Yeah.
I feel like we're doing an ad for fanfiction.net.
I know.
We're
I just really like their
app features right now.
Like, it's a good app. I'm telling you guys should download it.
This is not sponsored. Just so you guys know, we're not getting any money for this, but fanfiction.net should give us money.
Hey. You guys want to sponsor us?
Yeah, hi.
Hey.
Give us
money. You have money? Like, I guess, like, what? How do you get money on fanfiction? Like, I guess they have ads, but, fanfiction.net is the reason why I got ad blocker.
Oh, well, that's that sponsorship gone.
Yeah, no, because I was trying to read, and like every paragraph there was an advertisement, and I'm like, this is stupid. I'm not doing this. So I got an ad blocker, and my experience has been 100% better.
That's like what was happening on Wattpad when I was trying to read that Naruto story. There was just like random ads in the middle of the writing, and I'm like, what is going on right now?
How well do you think they stuck to the fandom, SG?
Nope.
Me? How well do you think?
Specifically?
How well do you think they stuck to the fandom, Ollie?
I mean, I think they stuck well to the two characters, Annabeth and Percy, and beyond. I mean, like their personal, like their banter with each other, how they talk to each other. I think that was pretty spot on. But beyond that, nothing was to the fandom.
That's interesting because I think that their portrayals of themselves were pretty spot on. Like I think Annabeth's personality matched up with Annabeth and Percy's personality matched up with Percy. I don't know that this romance really matches their romance.
Well,
it was
the first.
It seems sappier here than it did in the book series.
They're also
they were teenagers,
adults. Yeah, they're adults now, and
adults are just big saps, according to Ollie.
For sure. But in the books, like Percy, like saw Annabeth and like fell in love with her. Was like he was just like, oh wow, she's really hot. I think I like her, and that was kind of the case here. Like he saw Annabeth, he's like, dude, she's cute. I really like her long blonde hair, and
I don't know. Maybe I'm not really remembering the romance in the books as much. I felt like it wasn't as involved in this. Probably because there was like so much else going on. I don't really remember their romance. I remember they weren't together and then they were together. But I didn't really feel like there was a couple-y thing going on. But maybe there was, and I'm just not remembering it quite right. Because it's been years, like literal years. Yeah.
This is the first historical fanfic I've ever read.
You should read some Downton Abbey.
Oh God, no.
That's some good fanfic.
I think this is the first like historical one that I've read.
Really? Yeah. You haven't even read like Captain America stuff? Do you guys read Marvel fanfic?
No.
Tstan, do you read Marvel fanfic?
I used to.
I mean, I don't read it anymore, but I had a lot of fun. That's why Captain America is like my favorite, because of the historical aspect of his character.
Who would?
Was that a low-key shot, Poppy?
No, that's such a.
Oh, you would.
That was the very high-key shot. If there's any shot there.
Yeah, Miss Jane Eyre, Jane Austen over here.
All the Janes. I got all the Janes in my back pocket. Yeah, let's move on.
Yeah. Should we go to the comments?
Yes. Give me some of them comments. What are the people saying? What do they want? We scroll all the way down. That's the one thing about one-shots is you're scrolling forever when you're trying to get to the bottom of the page.
I mean, there's only like 25 comments.
I don't even know how to find comments on here. Where are we going?
Well, if you had the app, it'd been really easy.
It. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's called. They're called reviews. I cried so good.
I cried so good. Guest said, "Will'd love to see more historic ones like this."
All right, don't mock the poor people.
No, it's just amazing because they have like perfect words and spacing, and then just these two words, wood and historical, are just a mess. But all the other ones are perfect.
I mean, wood I understand, but historical is so wrong.
I think they just like
they just mashed
misprinted that wood.
Well, for our lovely listeners, it's spelled HSITORICSL.
Historical.
That is someone tapping at a phone keyboard and not checking.
That is a word scramble.
Yeah, and someone named Of Dogs and Chocolate, my heart.
That sounds dangerous.
You really had me thinking they were both going to be all right. That was freaking beautiful. I don't know how you do it, but you nail every story every time. You certainly destroyed me with your angst, and I definitely loved it.
The next one down is 2000 Scowl. It says, well, hello there, Jilly. A wonderful story is Jilly. What
That's the author.
Yeah, that's the author's name.
There's a few comments referring just to the author.
Okay.
Like, another good one.
Jilly is James Potter and Lily Evans' ship name, and I'm like, wait, what?
Oh.
There's someone named Grandma Zhang that said, good job, Fi. Now go get girlfriend before talking to me again. What does that mean? What does that mean?
Welcome to fanfiction.net, where every comment makes you feel like you're having a stroke.
Let's see. Mila Kuhn said...
Mila Kunis, what?
No, just Mila Kuhn.
Not Kunis, it's Kuhn. Kuhn. Why do you always kill one of the? My heart is taking it. Anyways, this is really great. Then again, all of your stories are great. I love the idea and the way you formatted it. Keep writing.
And then deactivated account now said, this was just awesome, ... Well, my heart is ripped into shreds. I enjoyed reading every single second of this. In fact, all of your stories are pure gold. You're one of the best writers for this fandom, maybe even the entire website. Some of your stories make me laugh and some make me cry. Also, your first review must have been some stupid, immature idiot, because your writing is 100 times better than most things I saw, and whoever that person is should learn to stop being jealous. Great job, just as always. What
happened? What did we miss?
The first review. The first review is.
Do you see that too? The Saint Heartwing.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Wait, who's that? Where's
the very first review?
The first review. It's page 2. Read it, Ollie.
What a pile of burning garbage. It's okay. I need you for one purpose only. Review my Undertale Frostfic, or I will troll you, your followers, and your
bad fics.
HIT fics. Give me a good review. I'm trying to win a contest.
Oh my goodness. That is aggro.
Like, oh.
Whoa.
That's just straight up blackmail.
Yeah.
Right?
Saint
It's like
Heartwing.
a guest. It's not even like a real, they're not even signed in.
Oh my goodness. How cruel. Yeah, everyone else seems to be good with this.
Yeah.
And I mean, they did a good job on the story.
So, do we want to give a rating?
I think we do.
I will go first.
Okay.
I want to say I give this a 4.
Really?
One reason most of my stories have been not the greatest. And I feel like this one...
Wow, someone is tooting her own horn right now.
Just toot. I felt like the writing was pretty well done, and I liked the idea of it being historical. And this is like one of the few tragedy fics I read, and while it didn't have a ribbon at the end, I think it was pretty well laid out, and I liked the characters, and I thought the romance in the proposal scene was adorable. So because of that romance, I would give it a 4.
What are we doing? Lightning bolts?
Oh,
we're doing tridents.
Tridents. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it 3 tridents. Because I did like it. I thought it was a good story, even though I knew what was gonna happen. I knew that one of them was gonna die. But it was good. It was cute. I don't give it as high of a rating just because the characters weren't super fleshed out, and maybe that's on me for not knowing anything about Percy Jackson, but it's also a little bit on the author for not fleshing out their characters. So here we are.
Okay, I'll go. I am also going to agree with Poppy. However, I'm going to be a little meaner. I'm going to do 2.5. Because, honestly, the story was fine. And I feel like that's, from what we've seen and what I think this person can do. I mean, you said they've been writing a bunch.
Yeah.
I think that there could be some, it just didn't, there was no hook to me. And again, maybe that's part of what Poppy was saying about not knowing the characters, but I just didn't care.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is definitely an author who's writing for the fandom.
Yeah.
Like, all of their content seems to be very geared towards Percy Jackson and the Olympians fans. So I can definitely see how... And we talk about this with all the fandoms when they don't, like, explain characters. Like, when you already kind of know the characters because you know the fandom, you forgive that more. And I think a lot of the fans of these stories do because they already kind of know those characters. Yeah. But Tstan, I would say I agree with you that it is probably a 2.5 because it's a good story. It doesn't offend me in terms of how it was written or anything. It doesn't offend me at all. I don't even know why I said that. I think I think they did a good job for what it was. I think for how they formatted it, the fact that they were focusing on a romance specifically and not necessarily the individual characters. I think they did a fine job of relaying that in their writing to the readers. Read us out.
Thank you for listening to the Fanfiction Book Club. Our pick this week was Here We Mark the Price of Freedom by JillianEmily. You can find more of this story and more of the author's work on fanfiction.net. Theme song is Folklorama by Kevin MacLeod. You can find more of Kevin's music on incompetech.filmmusic.io/artist/Kevin-MacLeod. The works discussed on the Fanfiction Book Club are not our own. All characters mentioned belong to their original authors. Until next week.
Bye.
Bye.